Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I'm really happy to present to you my son-in-law, Iqbal Naseem, who is a graduate of Cambridge. He's based in London and he's visiting Bangladesh now. And he has been leading the National Zakat Foundation UK. There is a great thing. Welcome to Bangladesh.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, I'd like to talk to him about the Zakat Foundation and related things.
So this is an indication that Islam is coming up in UK, and sort of you mentioned that the number of Muslims are increasing. So I'd like to know about Islam in UK. What is happening and what is the future?
Well, it's obviously a big question, so there's lots to discuss, perhaps. Maybe I'll start by saying, so far, what I think has been the achievement so far, I think what our parents and grandparents have achieved is effectively, you could say, establishing what you might call the essential infrastructure. Most places now in the United Kingdom where you would go, you will find places to pray, you will find mosques, you will find community or centers, Islamic centers, etc. Typically, there's access to halal food, right? Generally, there's an increasing awareness and understanding of Muslim kind of practices, worship, etc., amongst the general population. So there's been a lot of progress in that sense, and a lot of establishment, and effective. And one great indication, of course, is the fact that Friday prayers are still full everywhere. And one of the great signs of the Deen flourishing.
There used to be only one mosque in East London.
Yes.
How many mosques there are now?
Now in East London, especially in East London, East London is obviously quite a broad area, but there's many. There's must be dozens.
People go there to be honest. Friday.
Yeah, there's one, the large East London Mosque, and London Muslim Centre. That's one of the flagship mosques, which is in Whitechapel. But from there, as you go further east, there's a very significant Muslim population. There's just dozens and dozens of mosques actually. And all parts, northeast, southwest of London. There's over 1 million Muslims in London now, and many, many mosques. I think approximately the number of mosques in the country is around, if I'm not mistaken, so approximately 1,500, I think.
Oh, very
across the country. Obviously, they'll be very concentrated in certain places. So this basic infrastructure, is in place. But as we know, when we talk about the future of Islam, infrastructure is only part of the picture. And I know you had a recent trip.
Before the future.
Sure.
How could the awareness of Islam, Islamic education, all these kind of things?
Within the community. Yeah. So I think as the mosques were being established, also what you saw with the mosques being established is also the madrasa kind of being established as well.
Is there a madrasa as well?
Yeah, most mosques will have run and still do run like after school madrasa for children. But for a lot of children, the experience with madrasa wasn't very positive. Meaning, again, it was done in quite a kind of traditional, cultural kind of way, not much focus on meaning and understanding, sometimes a bit of a tough approach with the children as well. So there's many adults now, who might be my age, for example, like mid to late 30s, who might not have very positive memories of that time, because they felt a little bit forced in the way it was. Certainly things have evolved a lot. So there's been lots of work by different organizations on new curriculums, for example, for children. So the way in which the madrasa and the system is managed, and after school kind of club or system, or sometimes on the weekend is being taught, is done by now more qualified teachers who have more general teaching experience as well. So certainly there's a lot of positive development. And actually now, because of the technology, internet, etc., there's a lot of accessibility to a number of different materials for parents as well. So generally speaking, I think there's certainly for children at least, there's a lot of material which is available to help them get their basics in place.
How about adults?
Yeah, adults again. I think the issue is there is material. I think what's missing is structure. Okay, so how does if an adult wants to go down a path of learning and understanding, educating themselves, what's difficult for them is to know, where do I begin? Who do I go with? What do I start? YouTube is full of lots of videos here, there, but the problem with YouTube is, it's scattered. Everything is, it's not organized in any particular way. There are there are learning institutes and there are places, but I think relatively speaking, they're quite, I wouldn't say that they're very well accessed by adult Muslims. And of course, adults have their own stresses of work and family and everything else, so time-wise it's difficult as well. So certainly I think material is available. What's missing is structure, I think, and that's something which needs more work.
But I think there is online education also. You are conducting one.
Sure.
Can you brief about that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so in my case, I do teach courses on salah and prayer. I have a course on prayer. I have a Quran kind of membership sort of club, which runs every week. We have classes and interaction. And I have a leadership sort of course as well. So, and there are others who are teaching different courses and different things. I think still, though, the problem is if somebody wants an overall end-to-end, we can take certain topics, individual topics, and we can do them, and that's fine. But if somebody wants like an overall comprehensive sort of, like, let's just say this, I wouldn't say there's a common understanding or a culture amongst adult Muslims about how exactly you're supposed to go about your learning, basically, as a Muslim, So people are doing it in their own way, and there's lots of benefits in, that, and people are developing and learning, and there's more and more teachers and scholars and access because of, again, technology, etc. I think sometimes just the structured part that's missing. So what the result of that is that I think what ends up happening is that people sometimes can misprioritize things. So things that appear to be really important actually aren't that significant, and you have internal controversies about all sorts of minor issues sometimes, and things that are actually important sometimes don't get the attention that they require. So
how about the number of Muslims? Is it increasing or decreasing? If it is increasing, is it the growth rate or because of the conversion? Reversion? There
is some conversion, but not much, I would say. A lot of the growth is definitely just the birth rate, and so that's concerning, of course, because I think what it means. We know that within the community, we know that there is an issue where more and more people are struggling with their faith. Right? You're in an environment where you have your open access, and now it's not just a Western phenomenon. It's a global phenomenon, really. Now, there's open access to all sorts of views, opinions, philosophies, trajectories. Things are changing so fast. Like even things which are outside of the context of faith, even things which were social norms 20 years ago have completely gone upside down like now. So things are changing very, very fast. So I think the number is growing. Mostly it's the birth rate, some conversion, but how strong the community is within itself in terms of its own understanding and convictions is to be seen. Like there's positives, there's negatives. We don't exactly know. It's hard to know. Maybe more data is even required. But certainly we need to do better at presenting the message of Islam in a much more clear and universal way. Because the problem at the moment is that I think Islam is still understood, frankly, sometimes even by ourselves, but amongst people who might be, the English white population, etc., like they still see it as something foreign, not something that, that they could adopt. But a lot of that is because we're not presenting it in that way.
So what do you think the challenges of Islamic Muslims and what are their condition now in the country, in the society? They are okay, or there are some problems?
Yeah, so from a kind of socio-economic perspective, there are definitely challenges. There's lots of positives, as we said when we were discussing the Zakat situation. There's lots of challenges, no doubt, in terms of poverty, in terms of social mobility, etc. But at the same time, there's lots of positives. You have lots of Muslims, relatively senior Muslim politicians. The mayor of London is a Muslim. The mayor of other cities are Muslims. There are Muslim MPs, etc. Senior Muslims in business. And finance and across the professions, etc. So there are, those kinds of things, happening. I think the challenge, as I said, is the challenge there's always been really for human beings, is to remain truly God conscious, to remain faithful, as well, and take advantage of the opportunities that you have in front of you, but not get lost in this world, basically, which is the main challenge. So that I think is the thing. But the problem is, because of all of the situation, ever since the 9/11, then you had 7/7, which was a local, incident in the UK. The problem is that because of all the media, the way the media things happened and everything else, the general association that people have publicly when they think Islam and Muslims, they still link Islam and Muslims with, terrorism, blah, 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 and all of these things. Like, it's in the subconscious now of a lot of people, I think. So even though on a day-to-day basis, they don't experience that in their reality, but in their mind, like, I think that's very deep. So we need to work even harder to build relations, to communicate, to explain, to have generally positive relations with our neighbors, communities, etc., so that that impression changes.
Well, this is a very good thing that there are quite a number of good leaders, Muslim leaders. They are trying to present Islam in a nicely, in a logical way, and you are one of them. So, what is the potential in the future?
Yeah, I mean, look, the potential is significant, I think, because you see, from in our belief, when people turn away from God and they turn away from faith, the problems in this world will automatically show themselves. So it's not as if society is, at the moment, it's not as if people are happy. You know, people are fighting, they are confused, there's high levels of depression, high levels of anxiety, you know, all of the ills of social media are, you know, like affecting people. There's no sense of control, there's no sense of meaning anymore as well. So all of these, all of the problems are manifested. So, you know, and the latest census showed that in the last 10 years, there was a 13 percentage point drop in the number of Christians in the country. Yeah, which is massive. So for the first time, just now in 2021, when the census took place, for the first time, the majority of the country did not attribute themselves to any particular faith.
Oh.
Right? Now, on the one hand, that's worrying, obviously, but on the other hand, it does create an opportunity for us to show what the value of monotheism actually is. Yeah, because, you know, fundamentally, this is the only choice left now. Either there's no faith, nothing at all, right? Or there is the simplicity of Islam, basically, which we can then present to the people. So there is a huge opportunity.
Yeah.
But as you've seen yourself, because I know you had a trip to Spain and everything else, right? Like in 100 years' time, it's kind of what I think it feels to me like it's going to be like a binary situation. Either you're going to have a huge number of Muslims, maybe even a majority, or there's going to be a handful or none at all. You know, I think it will go in one of these two directions. So inshallah, it's going to go in the positive direction.
Yeah,
but we have to do the work.
We have a great potential, and we have to grab the potential.
Absolutely.
And I visited Spain a few weeks ago, and I met two people who reverted to Islam. That they accepted Islam, and I asked them why. They said that I was looking here and there, I couldn't find any way that to get the peace, mental peace, and I found the peace here.
Yeah.
So I hope Muslims, they grab the potentials and then they work for it. Without, Allah said in the Quran, وَلَيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى. People have to work for it and then they get it. So I hope and wish that you move forward and forward and forward.
Amen.
Thank you very much.
Amen. No, thank you.